KWT slaying.
What if the truth was never lost, only buried? For centuries, historians, scholars, and even colonial records have confirmed what many tried to silence. The original Israelites were a black people scattered across continents but never erased. Their skin was dark, their customs ancient, and their covenant with Yah eternal. This journey uncovers how the Spanish and Portuguese Jews, described as dark-skinned, Semitic, shared one bloodline. Chased by the Inquisition, many fled to Portugal, then beyond, preserving their heritage across borders. But the story doesn't end in Iberia. Across from West Africa, black Jews built synagogues, kept Torah, and passed down the laws of Moses. The Limba in southern Africa, the Igbo in Nigeria, the Beta Israel in Ethiopia, tribes across the continent boldly declared, "We are the children of Israel." These aren't isolated claims. These are voices rising from the dust, connected by oral histories, Torah traditions, and the unbroken rhythm of their identity. No such legacy exists among European Jews. No centuries of tribal witness, no matching traditions, no trace of ancient covenant keeping. Maps, art, and archaeology tell the same story. The Israelites were scattered, enslaved, and displaced, but never lost. The world always knew who they were. Their presence was visible, their customs alive, their story intact. This book doesn't speculate. It confirms the Israelites were black, bound by blood, culture, and covenant to the Most High. This is not just history, it's restoration. The truth was never destroyed, only buried beneath centuries of deception. Get your copy of They Always Knew We Were Israelites today, available now on Amazon.com.
The wind carries stories. You just have to listen. Even the earth whispers when danger stirs. I walk with its rhythm and strike when it falters. It hasn't faltered yet.
Horizon is never empty. Danger rides with the tide. So each dawn, I draw steel to greet the day. Every swing reminds the sea whose shore this is. Behind me, our children play.
Still, yet the wind learns to dance. Steel remembers what the hand forgets. The wood falls silent, the lesson is taken. One cut well.
The right, Frost to the left. Jets under my feet. No cage can hold that mix. They're not taking me back. Not after what you taught me. You gave me a name, a place to stand. I won't forget that.
And I won't let you stand alone, brother.
Alley ahead will give us cover. Keep your eyes sharp.
Shadows watch as well. We'll hold the pace.
Every stone here remembers steps. Walk with respect and it will let us through.
Stones may hold grudges.
Shalom, family. Shalom. How y'all doing today? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. So the little anime clip at the end is a little story that Minister Teo and I were working on in the Patreon. And basically the idea, is has liberty, right? It's not going to be 100 historical, but basically, well, the title is Keto the Israelite. So the concept is that Keto is looking for the lost tribes, right? So this is like, years after, and he's trying to find the lost tribes. Now we know there's 10 lost tribes, but he's looking for 11 because he only have his tribe, right? So he don't know about any of the other tribes. So he's going to look for the rest of the tribe, the 12 tribes, right? The whole idea of bringing it, the 12 tribes back together. And so basically the concept is that there's this underground organization called the Cabal, right? Y'all know who the Cabal is, right? And so basically the Cabal has been running things behind the scenes and trying to delete the Ezra Alawi. Okay, so the Cabal is trying to delete the Ezra Alawi because of the prophecies, right, that we're going to rule. So basically, this is going to be like a journey of them pulling together, the whole 12 tribes, because the only way to defeat this global organization is by uniting the 12 tribes together. And so the whole Cabal is advanced, right? Even back then, Israel is at a disadvantage because the Cabal is a breakaway civilization. And basically they have technology and they also have occult powers while we have the power of Yahuwah. So that's sort of the path that, we're taking and, sort of make it exciting. It's going to be like 3, 4, probably no more than 5 minutes. Episodes, that's the limitations of Sora. We might make it longer because we wanted to not have a bunch of the logos popping up, but if there's limitations to removing that, so we could do it a little longer if we keep the logos. So that's the idea behind it. So if y'all wondering why I show that, for Patreon members, that's going to be the ongoing story that we're going to be building. Something for the community, for the patrons and stuff that we, want to see, right? I mean, we watch all of this Japanese anime and all this other stuff, and we want to see some of our stuff, right? So now that with AI, we can tell those stories, right? And so that's the idea. We're going to be building on the story. So some good fight scenes too, real good fight scenes. So it's gonna, for those who like anime, it's off the chain, right? It's gonna be good. I'm sure, by having real artists and people talking, but we're new at it, and we're gonna probably improve as we go and get more talented at it, right? And stuff like that. So that's the idea. All right. So a lot of stuff been going on, and we have a lot of prophecies, some major prophecies, some minor prophecies, some stuff that to me at the very least I see all the time, and most people don't talk about, which it's fine with me because I figure most people don't see what I see anyway. So but anyway, one thing I know is right here is Donald E. Scott said, well, Arthur Schopenhauer once said, all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as self-evident. I've noticed that with myself. Stuff with the original one teaching about it, now it's sort of commonplace, right? And it's the same thing even with the land, right? It's going to become commonplace. People get pushed back right now, but everybody going to act, hey, like it was self-evident, right? So these are the times of revelation. These are the times of exposure, and these are also the times of revelation. And so we have prophecies coming to pass, and even Gentiles are starting to see some of these prophecies. Not that they can make a whole, a lot of sense to them because they're not the Ezra Alawi, which is why, it's the oracles were given to us, right? And so we're supposed to be a light. We're supposed to be the ones to instruct, right? And teach them the ways of the Most High. Now to them, they're going to be like, well, what can I get from a, N-word, right? In their minds, right? But But that's the dilemma. That is the complexities of the deception. Is that the people who they look at and feel we have no value, just as Wisdom of Solomon says, right? Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5. How are they the chosen? You can see it, right? They don't expect anything from us because they say we don't invent anything. We don't do anything, right? So let's look at some things. All right. So I do sound okay, right? Give me one if I sound okay too, if I don't. Okay. All right. So y'all remember, say yes if you remember, no if you don't. When I was telling the Gentiles that the curses are going to reverse, say yes if you remember that, no if you don't. That the curses are coming on them, right? Now, it's very interesting that, in my opinion at least, a lot of Gentiles are starting to wake up. They're starting to wake up, right? And it's surprising sometimes. But, hey, I'm not going to say it, though. Well, let me stop. I'm just being bad. All right, so let's listen to this.
Live in a society that's under the curse of God. Let me give you an example. Is it hard to buy a house in the United States right now?
Yeah.
You go through Deuteronomy chapter 28 and read the curses on a nation that rebels against God. And if you stop about 1/3 of the way through, the first 1/3 is all on the United States. You get a further after that, and those curses haven't started hitting us yet. You will build a house, and another will inhabit it. You will plant a field, and another will eat its fruit. Yeah, exactly. You shall go lower and lower, and the immigrant among you shall go higher and higher. And it's like,
What? That's in there?
that's in there. You shall go lower and lower, and the immigrant shall go higher and higher. Your leaders shall be confused. I mean, when Biden was president, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy. Your leaders shall be confused. Cursed will be your cattle. Cursed will be your food. Cursed will be your water. Fluoride, microplastic, poison in the food, in the water.
Wait, hold on. What chapter is it?
Deuteronomy 28.
In Deuteronomy. We gotta read this.
Now, some people think that, hey, well, maybe we're the original people. Maybe that's why the curses are coming on us, right? Maybe that's why the Deuteronomy 28. And then we got the raccoons who like, yeah, that's, But then we know that it's the curses are reversing, and we told them that, right? And now they're starting to see it. Now, if he didn't say it, you wouldn't believe me, right? Oh, you call, but he hateful. Nah, I've been trying to help y'all, right? I've been trying to help y'all, but y'all won't listen. We would have healed Babylon, but she's not healed. Well, Yacoba, I disagree with you that America's Babylon. Okay. Ain't no other nation fits it, right? And so we got all of these things coming together and all of these prophecies coming together, and most people don't understand what's happening. Personally, I'm excited, but at the same time, there's a little trepidation. And the reason why, is because I'm still working out some of these timelines. Because be honest with you, some of the timeline that I'm seeing don't look too good. And when I say that, I mean it by in terms of like, when does the mark of the beast occur? Are we still here when the mark of the beast occur? Or are we on our way out? Now, some of you all might disagree with me. But there's a high probability that we're going to be here when the mark is implemented, but we're going to be protected through it. So when you read, about what they call the Church of Philadelphia, we're going to be protected through it, or we're going to be out. I don't know which one it is, right? It could be either one. We protected through it, or we out before. But if you look at the scriptures, it seems to, denote that what forces us to leave, or the causation that forces us to leave, is that Babylon is attacked. Then we leave. I hope it's not that way. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here for that. I really, really don't want to be here for that. But I mean, it depends on your viewpoint. I don't know if I'm right about it, but it's possible, right? And there's a whole bunch of other things. And so there's a lot of things I've been revisiting about the end times. Give me a one if you remember the scripture that talks about, in the book of Revelation, about the false prophet, right? 2 horns like a lamb, but spake as a dragon. Give me one if you remember that. Now, if you think about it, right, Revelation 13:11, just my viewpoint, not saying I'm right. What do y'all think about this, that the foundation is already being established for the second beast? And what do I mean by that? Well, if we know, and this isn't really not, I'm really not here to go through the whole Revelation thing, but I wanted to throw this out. That if you look at those scriptures with a different viewpoint, and you look at the whole beast being a system itself, and the second beast being another system itself, and the second beast has 2 horns like a lamb, which denotes Christianity, right? And the horns represent authority, that America, and we could sort of see it going this way, has 2 Christian authority, right? One, and I'm going to say it this way, right-wing Christianity, MAGAism, right? White supremacy Christianity, and Catholicism. And so if I'm correct about this, then what may happen, and probably real soon, is that the Christian side is going to rise even more and more, the right-wing Christian side associated with the Vatican. 2 horns like a lamb, right? Christianity. And that they are going to be the ones who make an image of the beast. Can we say white Jesus? Cause it all that don't worship it. Why? Because they think they're right worshiping Jesus, but white Jesus. And cause all to receive a mark in their right hand and forehead. Because if you notice, even with Trump, right? Trump had the Trump Bible, right? Trump had been presenting himself with this Christian veneer and have these white Christian evangelicals praying over him. And Christianity is the one behind the immigration movement, and Christianity is the one behind all of these ills, this wickedness, right? Separating mommies from daddies and sending people to El Salvador, sending them to other countries, right? It's white Christians behind this, and those black Christians who are deceived. So this second beast would be this new authoritarianism, because the 2 horns represents authority, of Christianity taking over America and Western Europe, right? So there's a similar thing that's happening also in the UK, right? This seems to be this rise of this right-wing Christianity, right? So 2 horns like a lamb, they portray themselves as a following Messiah, but they speak like a dragon, right? Is that not what we see today? Trump with his Bible, right? Right-wing Christians, right? They hiding with they ICE uniforms, right? Got their little MAGA hats, but they're hateful, right? They're talking about creating a race war. I'm just saying, you look at this stuff with a different viewpoint and look like things are happening and a lot of people don't realize it. And they're not going to listen to me, mind you. I'm nobody, right? But it just seems that we're at the stage where a lot of this stuff might take off. And be honest with you, it could take off real fast. It could take off real fast. But also, we got things happening on the continent, which man, I'm just on that side, I'm excited. But on the other side, once again, we're going to go through a lot. We're going to learn how to rely on the Most High. We're going to learn how to trust him. I mean, really trust him, right? Because, just as we have no might in our hands to fight our enemy, we have no might in our hand to feed ourselves. But at the same time, what keeps me going is when I look back and I look at the prophecies now that I know who we are. And I see that all of these prophecies have come to pass, every single jot, every single tittle, right? From us being hunted down, chased around the world, right? Enslaved, held captive, deleted, right? Curses anybody hung on a tree. Y'all know the whole story. When I look back, and I see it come all the way up to the modern times, and I see the book of Revelation, I see the mark of the beast on the horizon, digital ID, right? AI, the image that speaks, right? I'm like, okay, well, the Most High word is not going to return void. So it's just us having to be patient. But also, we have some things happening on the continent. Let's look at this right quick.
Sissoko Embalo has been arrested and detained by military officers who have announced they've taken full control of the country. The borders are sealed. The electoral process is suspended. And once again, the people are being told that their leaders have failed them. But let me tell you something, my people. This is not just another military coup. This is a symptom of a disease that has been eating away at our continent for decades. This is what happens when puppet leaders forget that they serve the people, not foreign masters in Paris or Washington. The military officers, calling themselves the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order, made their announcement from the Armed Forces headquarters broadcast on state television. They speak of discovering plots to destabilize the nation involving politicians, drug barons and foreign elements. They've suspended all media activities, halted the electoral process, closed all borders, and imposed a 9-hour curfew starting from 9 p.m. local time. Now, let's talk about what really matters here, shall we? This coup didn't happen in a vacuum. This military takeover came just as Guinea-Bissau awaited results from a hotly contested presidential election held last Sunday, with both incumbent President Embalo and opposition candidate Fernando Dias da Costa claiming victory. Sound familiar? It should, because this is the same tired script we've seen play out across Africa for decades. But here's what makes this situation even more interesting, my brothers and sisters. Embalo was no angel. The main opposition force, the PAIGC, the party that led the nationalist movement for independence from Portugal in 1974, and its leader Domingos Simões Pereira, were barred from participating in this year's election after authorities said they filed their papers late. This is the democracy they're always preaching to us about. This is the freedom they claim we need their help to protect. Guinea-Bissau has been shaken by at least 9 coups and attempted coups between 1974, when it gained independence from Portugal, and 2020, when Embalo took office. The man even claimed to have survived 3 coup attempts during his time in power. His critics accused him of manufacturing crises as an excuse for crackdowns. Does this sound like a leader serving his people or a leader serving his own interests? Now, here's where the story gets really interesting, my people. While Guinea-Bissau burns, where is French President Emmanuel Macron? He's on a 4-nation tour of Africa from November 20th to 24th, covering Mauritius, South Africa, Gabon and Angola, in what analysts describe as one of Paris's most urgent attempts in years to stem the rapid erosion of its influence on the continent. Let that sink in for a moment. As another one of their puppet states collapses, Macron is scrambling across Africa trying to salvage what's left of France's colonial empire.
So it's interesting that this is happening, and I believe it's in fulfillment of the 4 carpenters. And if you notice, black folks taking down Macron, taking down France, Can anybody repeat after me and say Candace Owens? I know she's a raccoon. I know it. But between Candace and the African leaders, they're giving France some pain. France is starting to feel it. Yeah, France fried rice, right? I love it. I love it. I love to see the colonizer get it. And I can't wait till the rest of the colonizers start feeling it, right? And things, they be a changing. And so with the four carpenters, right now we have more than 4 coup d'etats, but not everybody joined the Sahel, right? Madagascar had a coup d'etat. What are they doing, right? I'm like, but at the same time, do they have to directly join the Sahel Alliance to be considered part of the 4? And is the 4 carpenters literally the number 4? Or is the 4 carpenters also symbolic of 4 directions, north, south, east, west? I don't know. I'm just thinking, right? We got all this stuff happening and we're starting to see the fulfillment of Zechariah chapter 1. And we're starting to see that they're kicking out the horns. Oh, this thing is so deep, family. This thing is so deep. When you start looking at this whole thing, look, I'm gonna have to do another show, and we're gonna have to revisit a whole bunch of stuff. We're gonna have to revisit a whole bunch of stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to revisit a whole bunch of stuff and understand this, that what's happening is happening quickly, right? It's happening quickly. So let's continue, because Africa be a changing. It be changing.
Sua Excelência Ursula von der Leyen, Presidente da Comissão Europeia.
President Lorenzo, President Costa, Chairperson Yusuf, fellow leaders, presidents, prime ministers, ladies and gentlemen. The last time we met in this format was mid-February 2022, just after a global pandemic and just before the war returned to Europe and before global politics became much more competitive and transactional. Since then, our world has changed profoundly. Global trade is more politicized than ever. Tariffs and trade barriers are being wielded aggressively. Export controls have become a tool to damage competitors and extract concessions. Global overcapacity in certain strategic fields has reached an all-time high. This is harming industries on both our continents, with consequences felt deep inside our societies. In this new reality, Africa and Europe are called to answer the very same questions. How can we create good jobs for our people? How can we deliver on the aspiration of our youth? How can we de-risk and diversify our economies? How can we break free from unsustainable dependencies while ensuring access to capital, resources, and technologies we need? Excellencies, fellow leaders, I believe that many of the answers lie in our partnership. In a more confrontational global economy, Africa and Europe need each other more than ever before. And this is what brings us here to Luanda. Today we can look back on the progress achieved since our last summit, but more importantly, we will look forward to new opportunities to work together. As old friends, but also as trading partners, investment partners, business partners, we want Africa and Europe to be partners of choice. Excellencies, fellow leaders, in a world of trade conflicts, a closer partnership between us begins with trade itself. Europe is already your first trading partner by far. 1/3 of Africa's total trade is with Europe. And Africa exports to Europe more than twice as much as to China, for example. Most of our trade has been duty-free and quota-free already for decades, thanks to our free trade deals and preference schemes, but I see room to expand our trade relationship even further. Right across the continent, we are building new infrastructure together to connect Africa and Europe. From ports to pipelines, the list is long. But take the Lobito Corridor. You all know this ambitious project to bring critical minerals from Zambia and DRC to global markets. But it is much more than that. As we launched the corridor, we also started working with farmers right here in Angola. European companies provided training. They helped local companies align with European standards and expand their export capacity. And this week we can celebrate that the very first shipment of Angolan avocados will leave Lobito bound to Europe. This is how we can make global trade a driver of local growth. And while we connect Africa to global markets, we are also supporting trade within your continent. I think this is the best way for African companies to scale up and prepare for global competition. With this summit, we are announcing more support to the African Continental Free Trade Area. And the message is clear. Even and especially in these times of global tensions, we believe in the power of trade because it delivers for our people and it delivers for our economies. Excellencies, fellow leaders, together with trade comes investment. And this is the second point I would like to address. At our summit 3 years ago, I presented our new Global Gateway Agenda, and you just referred to it. And in these 3 years, you have all seen what Global Gateway stands for. It is more than an investment and infrastructure development program. It invests in local jobs and local value chains. And this is what makes it unique in the global investment landscape. Other investors might follow a different playbook by building factories, whether in Africa or in Europe, but staff them with foreign workers. They drill, they mine, and they take the profits away. They often leave a legacy of unsustainable debts. This is not Europe's model. When we invest in the local processing of raw materials in Namibia or Zambia, when we build pharmaceutical industries from Senegal to Rwanda, when we bring data cables to the Maghreb and East Africa, these investments are truly in our mutual interest. They enable to move higher up the global value chain. They create new jobs for African youth, new skills for researchers, new businesses opportunities for African companies. And while doing so, we also create new markets for European companies and strengthen our European supply chain. So a true win-win situation. When we launched Global Gateway, we aimed to invest 150 billion in Africa by 2027. So far, we have already mobilized more than 120 billion euro, so we are well on track to meet our target. And at a time when major investors are rethinking their global engagement, Europe is very clear. Our commitment to Africa is here to stay. And this leads me to my third and final point. about one sector where it is particularly urgent to scale up investment. The global clean transition is now in full swing. Last year, over 90% of new energy capacity installed worldwide was renewable. Solar and wind have replaced coal as the leading source of electricity worldwide. But out of $2 trillion invested in clean energy globally in 2024, only 2% came to Africa, the continent with 60% of the world's best solar potential. This cannot be. It leaves 600 million people without electricity and 4 in 5 families without clean cooking options. Every person should have access to clean energy. Every continent should enjoy cheap energy. And this is why, together with President Ramaphosa, we launched a campaign. We called it Scaling Up Renewables in Africa. And at the G20 summit earlier this week, we reached 15.5 billion euros in global pledges. This is great news, and I want to thank the many leaders in this room that contributed. With the contributions made by governments and the private sector, we will bring electricity to millions of people across the continent. And this is also why we have pledged at the International Energy Agency's Clean Cooking Summit to deliver as Team Europe more than 400 million towards clean cooking projects in Africa. Because a just transition must be for all, and it must be made in Africa. Excellencies, fellow leaders, our partnership was born 25 years ago at the dawn of a new century. Back then, leaders from Africa and Europe agreed on a fundamental truth. Our continents have different histories, but we share the same destiny. What our predecessors called destiny has become reality today. Our prosperity is more connected than ever. We both need to build the industries of tomorrow. We both need to make the most of our talent and resources and get rid of dangerous dependencies. The case for Africa and Europe to join forces is overwhelming. So let us find new ways in doing so. Let us walk this path together. Thank you very much, and I wish us a very successful summit. Thank you.
Very interesting, right? Very interesting that all of a sudden they want to be friends. All of a sudden we should partnership. All of a sudden they want to bring businesses to the continent, right? All of a sudden we need each other when they abused us, right? Now, I'm going to read something, right? Probably get me in trouble. But hey, I'm reading something from a TV show. Okay, I'm reading something from a TV show. Okay, all right, take it for what you want. Right. So this is with Joe Martin. Y'all know Joe Martin, right? And so Burt Gelman, he said, "Will you please contribute? Say something." Y'all seen the video. Joe Martin says, "You want me to say something? Fine, I'll say something. You people are not a race. You're a virus. You destroy the world. Everything beautiful you poison. You drag us from our homes. You rape our daughters, murder our sons. You crack our spines and do all you can to break our will. You stab us and then you put the knife in our hands and tell us it's our fault. And if you don't do it yourself, you stand by, close your eyes and pretend that there's nothing wrong. And then you pray to your God to silence our screams so that you can enjoy the happiness we built for you with our blood. But it's not your fault. It's the only way you know how to be. And the only thing that would change anything is if another virus comes along and does to you what you do to us. And I hope that happens very soon." All right. Reason why I read that from that TV show is because if Africa trusts the EU, trusts the West, they're going to keep getting what they've been getting. They're going to put the knife in your hand and they're going to stab you with it first. Put the knife in your hand and say it's your fault. They're going to come into the continent. They're going to position themselves. They're going to have more people there to cause instability. They'll probably work out some deals for some security alliances, right? Which means to put more troops on the continent. And guess what? The trusting Africans are going to go along with it and say, sure, brother, come on in. But you can't make deals with the devil. Name one treaty that America hasn't broken. But if you notice, it's coming to pass. What? Everything I said, everything about the prophecies. I remember years ago, people were like, well, where are we going to go to, Jacob? But where? I said, Africa. Why are we going to go to Africa? What's there? Right? And so then we have this whole thing about the tail becoming the head and the head becoming the tail. Now, the guy I showed you in the beginning already said that the Deuteronomy 28 curses are falling on them. Did I not say that? Did I not say that was going to happen? And the reason why I say it like that, because I get a lot of heat from, the stuff I teach, but it's coming to pass. Same thing here, right? Africa is starting to rise. The Gentiles are in need. Why? Because of people like Ibrahim Traore, these coups d'etats that's happening, Guinea-Bissau, right? Things on the continent are changing. And there's nothing they could do about it. So now they're trying to shuffle, right? Trying to renegotiate, trying to get the best deal that they have. Because guess what? France isn't the only one that's falling down. America's not the only one that's falling down. Europe is falling down. Can we say global north? The global north is falling down and the global south is rising. All of this is prophetic. It amazes me how people can't see these things, right? And guess how prophetic it is, right? Because it shows how close we are to not only the Exodus, but, the wilderness experience. So they want to do business with Africa. They want to put corporations on the continent. They want to have real, true relationships, according to them. I don't believe it. I think it just, they positioning themselves to try to take over and invade and have another, scramble for Africa. But it's not gonna work this time. But in the short term, they have to renegotiate, right? On the short term, they have to renegotiate with Africa because Africa, almost all of Africa has at least said, we're not selling you raw materials anymore. Almost all of Africa said, you got to come here, invest in the continent, else you ain't getting nothing. And so now what we see here with von der Leyen's, that's her name, von der Leyen, right? What we see with her is that now all of a sudden they all love Africa. They want to do business. They want to invest. They want to bring corporations there. Why? They had no choice. Africa told them, you're not getting any more raw materials. You want an electric car? You better build the factory here if you want to use our resources. Africa said, you want some cocoa beans? you better build that chocolate factory here if you want some of our cocoa beans, because we're not selling your raw material. They have no choice but guarantee you, I guarantee, with their little buddy called the U.S., they're planning another invasion. Oh, yeah. Why you think Trump is already talking about, we got to help the Christians in Nigeria? Like, Trump cares about Christians. But once again, Christianity is going to rise. Why? Because it is white supremacist Christianity that's rising. Can we say evangelical Christianity? Can we say Catholicism? They're going to rise, and they're going to be dictatorial, and they're going to be the ones to more than likely bring in the mark of the beast. 2 horns like a lamb, but spake as a dragon. But now they want to do business. But if they want to do business, then that denotes prophetic fulfillment. Why? Why do you say that, Jacob? Why? If they want to do business, that means Africa is going to rise. If they want to do business, that means the 2 sticks are going to have to come together. If they want to do business, the dry bones are going to have to get some sinews and some skin, so that the awakened ones, the Ezra Alawi, the Negroes, the descendants of slaves, who are the true Israelites, not Mexicans, not Native American Indians, are going to come back and enjoy the fruits of the land. So this denotes that our exodus, in my opinion, our wilderness experience, in my opinion, is near. So that the prophecies can be fulfilled. So the prophecies can come to pass. Isaiah 60 verse 10, foreigners will rebuild your walls and their kings will serve you. Though in anger I struck you, in favor I will show you compassion. Coincidence, you say? Not. All of the prophecies coming to pass, and guess what? Most people can't see it, or they don't want to see it. It's amazing how the, right-wing Christians and your your people who look like you but don't talk like you, who happens to be Christians, they are dabbling over here in our eschatology a little bit, while at the same time still sticking their foot in the rapture or believing that prophecy has already been fulfilled. The apologists have to reevaluate and relearn and try to figure out what's going on in these last times, because it look like them Israelites know what they're talking about. The apologists have to determine, hey, you know what? Maybe they're right. Maybe that's not our land in that Levant area. I told you it's just a matter of time, because the truth always wins out. That's just how it is. Now, we have all of these things. We have the Gentiles saying the Deuteronomy 28 curses are coming on them. I told you. We have Africa continuing to get rid of the horns. Zechariah 1. The 4 carpenters getting rid of the horns. Africa's status within the world is rising because Europe needs Africa. Now they want to do business, because they can't just come in there and invade anymore, because they're going to try. Don't get it twisted. They're going to try. But they got to sort of reposition themselves, because people like Ibrahim have started to lock down, started getting weapons, starting to understand how they use the media to manipulate the world. So all of a sudden, they have to negotiate. Oh, we're friends, and Europe and Africa have been friends, and we have no terrorists on Africa, and blah 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 blah. Yeah, you didn't need terrorists because you stole all our goods. You stole millions and millions and trillions of dollars of gold and uranium and all other stuff. Y'all still stealing over there in the Congo. Yeah, don't be our friends. We don't need it. But we have all of these things going on, right? Prophecy coming to pass, and 2026 is going to be even worse than 2025. How can you say that, Yacoba? No more, no more, no more. Well, my sister Talisha asked me to cover this, and I'm going to bring it up. This is The Economist cover of the Economist magazine. I see a whole bunch of stuff in here for 2026. Can you see it, family, what they got planned for us? Global surveillance, war. You see the cargo hold with the guns shooting missiles. Now look how deep this is. 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the United States. So this is the United States. What's going to happen to the United States? She's going to be attacked by a cargo ship. What else going to happen to the United States? Because this is the 250th year, 2026, of America. America's going to be locked down. You see that? You see it's tied to the birthday cake. That's 2026, 2050. You see that hand with the handcuff? You're not going to be able to go nowhere. You're going to be locked down. Why? Because we're going to be at war. See the missiles? We're going to be fighting the Persians. Look at the tanks. Now, I wonder why they got this right here. You see this game controller? It is tied to a brain. Now, does that mean that a lot of y'all gonna be NPCs? Are they gonna be controlling your mind? Is that what we're seeing here? The game controller controlling the minds of the Americans? Yeah, are they gonna implement Neuralink? I don't know. What are they saying here? What is Trump doing here? He's crashing the economy and he's causing war. What's this over here? That's Xi Jinping. I'm assuming one of these people is Putin. What's going on right here? Robots, war, economy crash, tanks. So America's going into lockdown, right? Because we see that. The hand, the cuffs, the tanks. You think Trump positioned those National Guards in black cities for nothing? What else gonna happen? Right here, robots, automation. And somebody gonna try to implement the lollipop again. This is 2026, according to The Economist. And people gonna be taking a lot of pills, man. I see a lot of pills flowing around here. Y'all see all these pills? What kind of pills is that? Robots are going to be patrolling the streets. Drones are going to be patrolling the skies. Bombs are going to be falling out the air. I'm just wondering. Are we reading too much into this? Look at this right here. This guy launching something from some missiles, and they sure got a lot of lollipops going on around here. Is they going to be trying to get everybody to take a lollipop while they have the robot dogs and the tanks locking everything down? Y'all do know the soccer is next year in the United States, right? It's supposed to be here in the U.S. in 2026. All of this in the 250th year anniversary of the United States. Am I reading stuff into this family that's not there? It looks to me like 2026 is going to be all hell. I hope I'm wrong. It don't look good, does it? I mean, I think I'm interpreting this correctly. And then we got Elon Musk. That's his little rocket right there. He's probably going to be putting some more satellites in orbit. Why? Because everything's going to be controlled by little robots. And the people going to be controlled like little automatons. The game controller connected to your brain. 2026 is going to be the year of decision. And I think we have to reevaluate how we see end time prophecy. Because a lot of people got their own ideas and it don't line up. I get all the time, about how Jerusalem shall be trampled by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled, Luke 21. And I tell you, and people don't listen, every single time if you read that verse and you read the verses preceding that, it has to deal with the Israelites. It has to deal with our oppression and judgment. So why all of a sudden does it switch to a land? No, Jerusalem is the people and the people are Jerusalem. So in other words, the Israelites will be oppressed by the Gentiles until the time the Gentiles be fulfilled. So we got all these signs happening and all these prophecies coming to pass, and people act like ain't nothing to see here. It's amazing to me, with all of the evidence we brought forth about history and prophecy, and even beforehand, right? Before all of this stuff was known. I'm surprised today there's any pushback, but there still is. It's amazing to me. There's a lot of prophecies that our people don't understand because they've been lulled to sleep by their pastors, by their mores. But the Bible says that in the last days, a lot of people will be deceived. So if you go back and you look at some of the prophecies and the prophets and things like that, you will see things that they've talked about that goes overlooked, right? A lot of people overlook prophecies that were given by the prophets of the Old Testament. Christians think the Old Testament is passé and there's no reason to look at it. I already covered the map, Sister Talisha. I didn't put that link out there, though. But anyway, we got all these things happening, right? And prophecies keep happening. Now, some prophecies are obvious and some prophecies aren't. And some prophecies, you have to readjust your perspective, right? You have to readjust how you see what you've been trained to see. Because a lot of times what you've been trained to see is error. So one of the things I want to show you, which I believe is prophetic. Now, how it's going to end up filling in is the question. But as you know, I believe East Africa, specifically in what we call Ethiopia today, is where the true Jerusalem is, in Lalibela. I don't know if you all saw my latest clip about where the Sea of Galilee is. The reason why I say all of this is because you have to understand that according to the Bible, there's certain aspects to the land of what we call Israel. Now I'm gonna play this video again. This is one of my shorts, and I'm gonna play it because I'm going somewhere with this, right? So that your eyes can be open and you can see what's probably going on. But prophecies are happening every day, and the Most High is speaking. The Most High says, the wise will understand, but the wicked will not understand. A lot of you all who claim to follow Messiah are probably wicked because you don't understand.
Scripture spoke of nations greater and mightier than Israel, yet the Levant has no room for them. Its valleys are too small, its borders too narrow for
keep digging in that land, yet they find nothing.
Because Jerusalem isn't there. The true city lies here, in the Ethiopian highlands.
For centuries the world believed these barren hills were the Holy Land. Yet no trace of Solomon's temple, no walls of David, no cities of vast nations greater than Israel.
They call this the Gihon. But this spring couldn't water a village, let alone circle the land of Cush.
Here flows the real Gihon, mighty and alive, circling Cush, exactly as the book of Genesis says.
Psalms say, as the mountains surround Jerusalem, so Yahweh surrounds his people. No land matches that better than these highlands.
One land yields dust, the other life. Which one would the Creator choose for his dwelling?
Jubilees reveals that the Holy of Holies stood beside the Gihon and the mountains of fire. Volcanic lands, not limestone deserts.
Look there, brother. The fire still breathes under the earth. The same mountains of flame our fathers wrote about.
They look alive.
The Lalibela's design mirrors temple courts, altars, and reservoirs. Stones carved as if from the pattern once shown to Moses.
Every direction points here, east of Eden, south of the Gihon, where prophecy and geography meet.
Prophecy promised Zion would be a land of fountains and hills. The Levant is barren. Ethiopia overflows.
Across the continent, the memory awakens. The people and the place are reuniting after ages of deception.
There stands the city the world forgot.
The mountains of fire kept her hidden, but the true Jerusalem lives.
So it's important. The reason why I showed that is because what I'm going to talk about in a second, in terms of, fulfilled prophecy, is you have to understand what a true land is, right? And we're gonna go right here, right quick, to Jubilees chapter 8. Okay, verse 18. And Noah rejoiced that this portion came forth for Shem and for his sons, and he remembered all that he had spoken with his mouth in prophecy. For he had said, blessed be Yahuwah, the Elohim of Shem, and may Yahuwah dwell in the dwelling of Shem. And he knew that the Garden of Eden is the Holy of Holies and dwelling of Yahuwah, and Mount Sinai, the center of the desert, and Mount Zion, the center of the navel of the earth. These three were created as holy places facing each other. And be blessed the Elohim of Elohims, who had put the word of Yahuwah into his mouth, and Yahuwah forevermore. And he knew that a blessed portion and a blessing had come to Shem and his sons unto the generations forever. The whole land of Eden and the whole land of the Red Sea. Now that's the Sea of Reeds, right? Not the Red Sea. And whole land of the east and India. That's a whole nother discussion. And on the Red Sea and the mountains thereof, and all the land of Bashan, and all the land of Lebanon, and the islands of Keflur, and all the mountains of Sanir, and the Mana, and the mountains of Ashur in the north, and all the land of Elam, Ashur, Babel, and Susan, and Medai, and all the mountains of Ararat, and all the region beyond the sea, which is beyond the mount. Let's see, yeah, beyond the sea. And here's the part. And for Ham came forth the second portion beyond the Gihon, right? The Gihon is the Nile. I've talked about that before. Towards the south, to the right of the garden. So Ham's territory is near the garden, right? And Shem's territory is near the Garden of Eden as well. And it extends towards the south, and it extends to all the mountains of fire. Okay, this is the part I want to talk about, the mountains of fire, right? This is volcanoes. And it extends towards the west to the Sea of Atel, and it extends toward the west till it reaches the Sea of Malk, into which everything which is not destroyed descend. All right. So we see that when you look at this carefully, you will see that the land of Shem and the land of Ham border each other. And part of that border is the Garden of Eden, there's the Gihon, which is the Nile. And also part of that border is also where the mountains of fire is, right? And so this is why I'm reading that, because of what's happening in Ethiopia. So volcano in Ethiopia erupts for first time in nearly 12,000 years. It felt like a sudden bomb. A volcano in Ethiopia's northeastern region erupted for the first time in nearly 12,000 years, sending thick plumes of smoke up in 9 miles into the sky. The Toulouse Volcanic Ash Advisory Center said the Haile Gubi volcano, located in Ethiopia's Afar region, about 500 miles northeast of Addis Ababa, near the Eritrean border, erupted on Sunday for several hours. The volcano, which rises about 1,500 feet yards in altitude, sits within the Rift Valley. Keep that in mind. It sits within the Rift Valley, a zone of intense geological activity where two tectonic plates meet. Ash clouds from the volcano drifted over Yemen, Oman, India, and northern Pakistan, said the VAAC, which posted a map of the path of the ash cloud. Air India said on Tuesday, it had canceled at least 11 flights due to ash plumes, and AXA Air said it canceled flights to some Middle Eastern destination. All right. So for nearly 12,000 years, this particular volcano, right, did not have any activity. Okay. So one thing we need to note is that they talked about the volcano that's erupting, which is the Haile Gubi, or the Haile Gubi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, right? And so the Haile Gubi, that's a weird name though. I ain't gonna lie. The Haile Gubi is sitting there, and it's erupting, and it hasn't erupted in 12,000 years. All right. So it says the Haile Gubi, right, is a shield volcano located in the far region of Ethiopia. It is the southernmost volcano of the Erda El range. Until November 2025, there was no known record of any Holocene era eruptions of this volcano. Although records of eruptions in the area are limited by the remoteness of the region, eruptions may have occurred in the Holocene, but there are no existing historical records of them, and the volcano has not been studied well enough to date past unrecorded eruptions. All right, so it supposedly have not erupted for 12,000 years. So the Haile Gubi sits on the volcanic belt that links Sinnar. So like in some of my older videos, I talked about Sinnar, right? And that's in Ethiopia, and you've seen it on the maps, right? Now in the Latin Vulgate, Sinnar is associated with Mount Sinai. Sinnar is the same as Sinai. Okay. So in this area called Sinnar, right, this volcanic belt sits Haile Gubi. Right. So they also have what they call the Aluto, right? The Aluto or Winchi, right? And so they have the Aluto, right? And the Aluto is a dormant stratovolcano in Ethiopia located in the Ethiopian Rift Valley in southern Oromia region between Lake Lagano and Lake Ziwe. Now remember, as I mentioned in the show, that the Book of Jubilees shows the mountains of fire, right? And that's part of this rift. And remember what it says about you know, that whole area, you know, is mountains of fire, which denotes volcanoes. Why am I mentioning this? Why is it important? Well, if we understand the biblical land, right, you know, we need to get out of this whole Eurocentric crap. If we understand the Bible that we say we believe in, then we would know that all of this ties to our land. It ties to prophecies. It ties to the Most High Yahuwah speaking to the world, because the world's about to be judged. It ties to our people, right? Waking up, about to go home, in my opinion. Now, so remember, this is in the Rift Valley, the Great Rift Valley. And this is where the Haile Gubi is, in the Great Rift Valley. And so what we have here is the prophecies, in my opinion, denoting the Most High starting to move. This is just my opinion, right? So let's look at some things, right? We're going to look at what the scripture says. This is Micah chapter 1, verses 3-4. Look, Yahuwah is coming from his dwelling place. Okay, so Yahuwah is coming from his dwelling place. Well, what happens when Yahuwah comes? He comes down and treads on the heights of the earth. The mountains melt beneath him. Sound like volcanoes, right? And the valleys split apart. This is what we see happening right now, is that there's the smoke. Remember, we read that, right? About the Haile Gubi, the smoke that's coming up, the ash. The mountains melt beneath him and the valleys split apart like wax before the fire, like water rushing down a slope. Is that not what happens, family, when a volcano explodes? Yes or no? Is that not what happened? Yes or no, family? Is that not what happens? Is that not what a volcano look like? Like wax before the fire, like water rushing down a slope. That's just what it looks like when a volcano explodes. But what does it note? What does it denote when these volcanoes in the Rift Valley? Remember, it's in the Rift Valley with the mountains of fire, other volcanoes, right? The valley is going to split apart. Is that not what's happening over there in East Africa right now, family? Is not there's a split happening? All of this is happening now. Now, what does this denote that the volcano is splitting? I mean, not the volcano, that the Rift Valley is splitting. What does it denote? It says, look, Yahuwah is coming from his dwelling place. He comes down and treads on the heights of the earth. The mountains melt beneath him, and the valley split apart like wax before the fire, like water rushing down a slope. That is volcanoes. Yahuwah's coming. Now, what is Yahuwah coming to do? That's the question. He coming to get his people? What you think? Now, this is a map of that area, right? And this is the main Ethiopian rift. And there's volcanoes in this area. And the Hali Gubi is part of that rift valley where these volcanoes are. Now, I'm not going to say this for sure, but there's a high probability that the Hali Gubi could be, I'm just saying, the Hali Gubi could be Mount Sinai. There's a possibility that the Hali Gubi is Mount Sinai, because the way that the Israelites truly came with the Exodus, they would have came through Sudan, and they would have ended up coming through Sudan, coming into what we call Ethiopia today. They would have passed through the Rift Valley and came by some of these volcanoes. And one of these volcanoes on the path to the highlands of Ethiopia, which I believe is our land, is the Hali Gubi. I don't know for sure, but it's theoretical, right? So it's possible that that is Mount Sinai. And remember, that is in the same region, because Sinai on the maps that I've showed you in the past is in the Sudan area. And the Sudan borders Ethiopia, right? So remember, the land of Ham borders the land of Shem. And they're connected by what? The Garden of Eden and the mountains of fire. So they're on the same border. They border each other. So here's the volcanoes, and here's the main Ethiopian rift. And back to Micah 1, the mountains melt beneath him and the valley split apart. Can we say the rift, the valley is going to split? Once again, why is this important? Look, Yahuwah is coming from his dwelling place. He comes down and treads on the heights of the earth. Judgment is coming. The Most High is coming. These volcano eruptions could be more than likely a sign that the Most High is coming. And if he's coming, he's going to judge the earth and he's going to save his people. I'm just saying, I'm just telling you what I see. You ain't got to, eat the meat, spit out the bone. Exodus 19, 6-18. On the morning of the third day, there was thunder and lightning with a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. Then Moses led the people out of the camp to meet with Yahuwah, and they stood at the foot of the mountain, Mount Sinai. Can we say Sinai? That's how it is in the Latin Vulgate. Mount Sinai in the Latin Vulgate, also in the Septuagint. Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because Yahuwah descended on it in fire. The smoke billowed up from it like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain trembled violently. Is that not what Mount Hubi did? The smoke. Back to the article. Ash clouds from the volcano drifted over Yemen, Oman, India. Smoke. Why? Because Yahuwah's coming. So the smoke billowed up from it like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain trembled violently. Deuteronomy 5:22-23. These are the commandments of Yahuwah. These are the commandments Yahuwah proclaimed in a loud voice to your whole assembly. There on the mountain from out of the fire, the cloud and the deep darkness, and he added nothing more. Then he wrote them on 2 tablets, stone tablets, and gave them to me. When you heard the voice out of the darkness while the mountain was ablaze with fire, all the leaders of the tribes and your elders came to me. See, nobody talks about how these are volcanoes. And didn't they say that Mount Haile Gooby, the land shook? She said it felt like a bomb. Isn't that what she said? The land shook and it felt like a bomb. Second Samuel 22:8-10. The earth trembled and quaked, and the foundations of the heavens shook. They trembled because he was angry. Smoke rose from his nostrils, consuming fire came from his mouth, burning coals ablazed out of it. He parted the heavens and came down. Dark clouds were under his feet. Volcanoes, earthquakes. Isaiah 64:1-3. Oh, that you would rend the heavens and come down, that the mountains would tremble before you, as when fire sets twigs ablaze and causes water to boil, like a volcano. Come down to make your name known to your enemies and cause the nations to quake before you. For when you did awesome things that we did not expect, you came down and the mountains trembled before you. So when Yahuwah comes down, what happens, family? What happens? The volcanoes go off. The earth shakes. What volcanoes? Is it any volcanoes? No, it's the volcanoes in the Holy Lands. The same ones we see in Jubilees. It felt like a sudden bomb had been thrown with smoke and ash. The earth shakes when Yahuwah comes. What did Micah say? Look, Yahuwah is coming from his dwelling place. He's coming down and treads on the heights of the earth. The mountains melt beneath him and the valley split apart like wax before the fire, like water rushing down a slope. Earthquakes. Volcanoes exploding. Magma coming out that looks like wax. So we have this whole thing. We have Jubilees that tells us that the mountains of fire is near the territory of Ham and Shem, which is near the territories of the Ezra Alawi, which is near the territories of the 12 tribes. And that these particular volcanoes exist in a great rift. So every one of these descriptions we see in the scriptures, it matches the East African rift. The highlands of Ethiopia, Sennar, and the regions identify as Sinai or Sennar, which also means Zion is there. I'm like, how many times do we have to match it up for people? They still not going to believe. They got volcanic peaks like the Sennar Range, right? They got Erda El and Dindi and Winchi and Aludo. The entire rift chain matches the biblical imagery far better than the Levant. But Yahuwah is coming. That's what it says. See, these are the volcanoes where Israel's land is. These are the volcanoes where Zion is. This is where Yahuwah comes down, and those volcanoes go off, specifically Mount Sinai. And there's a chance, like I say, I have no proof, that Haile Gubi could be Mount Sinai. Could be. But we got to understand that the things that are happening, your average person not going to see. The things that are happening, people who are caught up in Babylon cannot fathom, and their ears are dull of hearing. Now, before I close, I'm going to show you all two videos that, of our short clips, right? Because I think it's relevant. Right? Well, three. I'm going to show three of them, right? Because I think it's relevant for today, in case you haven't seen it. All right. So,
described in Scripture demands natural abundance. The Levant at that time held scarcity and dryness. The two pictures do not match. The Levant was already
Truth
arid.
requires alignment between Scripture and the environment. The Levant fails that test. The Promised Land was fertile when Israel entered it. The Levant was not.
Moses brought Israel into a land described with clear words, a land flowing with milk and honey. Israel stepped into a fertile place, rich with water, pasture, and life.
The land they called the Levant cannot be the land Moses entered. Historical climate records force this conclusion.
The Levant began to dry around 3000 BCE. Rainfall dropped, rivers shrank, fields failed. This long decline is known as the post-Holocene aridification. By the time Israel lived in the Promised Land,
this fact forces a simple conclusion. Moses did not enter the Levant. He entered a fertile land. The Levant was already in decline because of the post-Holocene aridification.
During the post-Holocene aridification period, the Levant became dry land. Moses did not enter this arid region. He entered a real land of milk and honey.
All right, so you got to understand where the true land is in order to understand what may be happening prophetically, okay? And that's the problem with most people, is that they don't want to pay attention to what the scriptures truly say. They go by their feelings and their biases.
And Moses led a nation more than 2 million strong out of Egypt. Every day, that many people and their animals would need millions of gallons of water for drinking, cooking, and simple survival. The question
Moses looks over a nation of more than 2 million black Israelites. To keep them alive in the desert, he must account for the water each soul will need. One person requires at least 3 to 5 gallons every day for drinking,
The
cooking,
Nile is
and
the
simple
only river in this entire region with a continuous flow strong enough to sustain millions of people and their animals. Its steady supply of water makes long-distance travel
Here
and
in the
survival
Levant,
along
the
the
land
way
is dry, the air thirsty. No major river threads this wilderness, no steady water to drink. 2 million travelers would need lakes, not lonely trickles. Without them,
Measure the Gihon at around 7 liters a second, about 650,000 liters a day. That's plenty for a small village. But to sustain even a fraction of the 2 million people described in the Exodus, you'd need at least 10 million.
Today find its output steady but small, barely enough for a village. The water is funneled through this narrow channel, incapable of supplying the millions of gallons needed each day by a...
This is the Sea of Galilee. Beautiful, yes, but it's a single small lake that could sustain a village at best. Now
the
picture
Sea of
this.
Galilee is beautiful, but it's small, only 166 square kilometers, and shallow by global standards. Its freshwater reserves could support maybe a
From
few
the air,
hundred
the
thousand.
Sea of Galilee looks peaceful, beautiful, yet small. A lake like this can keep a village alive, but not a nation. More than 2 million sons and daughters of Israel marched out with Moses.
All right, so that's the fake land with the fake Galilee. My final video that I'm going to show is the real Galilee. All right, what I believe to be the real Galilee.
The Old Testament calls it Yam Kinneret, the Sea of Chinnereth, a lake in the highland heart of Israel. Lake Hake matches the shape, elevation, and environment.
Highland winds
Hake's
strike Lake Hake with sudden force. These storms act exactly like the storms that terrified the disciples.
Joshua describes villages by the Sea of Chinnereth on opposite sides. Lake Hake still carries that exact pattern today.
The Levant lost its fishing culture. Lake Hake still lives with it. This is the environment where black Israelite disciples like Peter, Andrew, James, and John lived and worked.
The Gospels describe short crossings. Lake Hake fits this travel rhythm. The disciples could sail across in minutes.
Of a highland lake surrounded by active villages, fishing life, and short travel routes. This is the Sea of Galilee. This
The
is
Haggadah map places Judah in the center with the sanctuary above it. Lalibela sits in the same position, high in the heart of the land.
The Haggadah map places Benjamin directly beneath Judah. The southern ridges beneath Lalibela match that exact arrangement.
The Haggadah map shows Issachar, Zebulun, and Naphtali stacked north toward a lake. The Lalibela to Hike corridor matches that pattern with
The
precision.
lake tied to the northern tribes on the Haggadah map matches Lake Hake. This is the inland sea described in the scriptures.
The house of Joseph held rugged country west of the sanctuary. The western Ethiopian highlands mirror Ephraim and Manasseh on the Haggadah map.
A lake in the north, just where the map places the northern tribes. Frontier tribes on the escarpment, Judah in the center, Joseph's house in the west. The land,
The highlands, the lake, the tribes and the paths all match the writings. This land holds the signs. This is the true land of the Bible.
The Old Testament.
All right. So with all of that said and all of the evidence we have, and, you know, it's up to each individual to do their own research, right? And if you look at a lot of the research that we've done and look at the videos I did on the Haggadah map, the Haggadah map is aligning with what we're seeing today, right? Some of these locations, like for instance, you know, this Ayak being possibly more than likely the Sea of Galilee. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. And if we go through and we look at, you know, the etymology of the word and all of that, you know, it just means a big lake of water, right? Stuff like that. And some of the things that we see based upon the translations are broad. Like when we talk about the Great Sea, right? It's not necessarily like we would think, as they say for the Levant, which is the Mediterranean, right? I believe it could be Lake Tana, because Lake Tana, in reference to the Great Sea, is a huge lake, right? And so, but in reference to, you know, what we see in the scriptures of Messiah, how long it took him to get across the lake at dawn, it has to be a certain size lake. And also the particular communities that were on each side of those, what we call the Sea of Galilee, right? So there's a lot of little things. And when you start putting all the pieces together, and like I said too, like all of these things in East Africa and all of the African traditions. So like in my new book, I talk about the, you know, the Book of Our Fathers, right? Which is proof by the customs and the culture of who you all call Africans, right? And so that's why those who claim to be, you know, from this land, more power to you, right? But you ain't Israel. Okay, all of the prophecies are coming to pass on the continent, and we see it right now. The people who think they're from this land have no idea what's happening. They're caught in a deception. And there's a lot of people caught in a deception. And it's by design, because a lot of our people have been manipulated, and a lot of our people have been purchased by Babylon. And understand this, we are in the heart of the beast system. And it is the woman that rides the beast that's going to force everybody, right, to receive the mark. Why? Because she controls the economics. She controls the beast system, right? So we in the heart of this thing. And from what I can see, everything is coming to pass, and it's coming to pass fast. So you need to understand these things, because when you look at it, you can see prophecy coming to pass, and it makes sense. Right? It makes sense if you really take the time to compare the scriptures to East Africa. I'm like, it's 100%. Look, some of y'all take your time. Look, you got all the sources. You got tools today, right? You got AI, you got Google, you got all of the ancient books. You got all this stuff you could use to prove it. But you don't want to take the time to look. You want to go along with your biases. But if you go along with your bias, you won't understand anything. You're going to be just like the Christians waiting for the rapture. You ain't going to have no idea what's really happening prophetically. But right now, we are in the midst of prophecy. We are in the midst of the book of Revelation. I can't tell you when we're leaving, but we're going to leave because the Most High Word does not come back void. And right now, from what I'm seeing, I told y'all my timeline that I think it may happen. Now, I get in trouble for giving my opinions, right? People, oh, you prophesied this, you prophesied that. No, I give my opinion. And sometimes my opinions could be wrong, right? So understand this. Things are happening quick. I don't know how it's going to fully play out, but you need to make sure you're right with the Most High. You need to understand and pay attention to the events on the continent as well as the events globally, because the things that we have been taught about the Antichrist, the things that we have been taught about the last days are skewed from a Eurocentric viewpoint. Why? Because they don't know who the people are. They don't know that the Bible's an African book. They don't understand that it's all tied to the Deuteronomy 28 curses. They don't understand that the reason why the Negro was enslaved and persecuted was for disobedience, and that we're going to be restored. But yet everything we've said has come to pass. One of my oldest videos is the fall of the Gentile powers before it even got to this point. And look at it now. We got Gentiles saying that the Deuteronomy 28 curses are on them now. Everything I've told you is coming to pass. Y'all best get ready, because we getting the heck out of here, family. Love y'all with the love of the Messiah. If you want to support us, you can. You can like, share, and subscribe. You can also go and give us through Cash App, $TOTW7101. You could buy my brother's book, They Always Knew We Were Israelites. You could get my book, True Jerusalem, if you really want to know what's going on, because it's really part of the end times, right? Knowing where True Jerusalem is and all of this, and knowing where Galilee is very important to understand end time prophecy. But that's on you. We don't have long, but hey, sit back and relax, right? Because we about to find out. Peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending. Well, family, the wait is over. The moment has arrived where truth emerges triumphant from the shadows of history. Introducing the True Jerusalem, the lost kingdoms of the Israelites, the groundbreaking work by me, Jacoby Vale, a journey into the past that reshapes the future. I cut through centuries of misconceptions with piercing clarity. This book delivers a compelling case packed with evidence that commands attention and gonna get some respect. Come with me for a second, family, and discover how these thrilling civilizations flourished, protected by towering highlands and sustained by advanced engineering. Some have asked, where is Jerusalem? Is it the land in the Middle East? I say no. It is in the highlands of Ethiopia. With hours of groundbreaking research, this book brings in a new revelation, and it will transform your understanding of African history and its connections to the ancient world. It's going to remove from your mind the conditioning by the Romans of what has really happened to our past. Come with me, family, to the Ethiopian highlands and find out why this is our land. Why things have been hidden and obfuscated for centuries. We are royalty, children of the Most High. What kind of land do you expect us to have? Dried up dirt in the Middle East, or land flowing with rivers? A land full of beautiful animals flowing with milk and honey. Don't miss out on this monumental unveiling. Grab your copy today and stand on the side of truth. Visit Amazon.com or www.tailministries.com to purchase your book and join Jacoby Vale's teachings on Tail Ministries. Family, your journey to hidden history has now begun. So family, get your copy of True Jerusalem, the Lost Kingdoms of the Israelites today. Journey to the heart of Africa, where history and legend converge to reveal the forgotten kingdoms of the Israelites and the true location of Jerusalem.